Danny Cooper sat in the corner of the university archives, his fingers moving quickly across the holographic display. The soft blue light cast shadows across his face as he sorted through another stack of xenobiology reports. Around him, the vast collection of galactic knowledge hummed quietly, processors working day and night to catalog information from hundreds of worlds. He loved this place. The silence, the smell of recycled air mixed with the faint ozone from the data cores, the way knowledge from 1,000 species waited patiently on the shelves. At 22, Danny had already spent 3 years at Meridian Prime, the largest academic station in this sector of space. Most days, he split his time between studying and working here in the archives, helping other students find what they needed. The door slid open with a whisper. Danny looked up to see enter, her 4 arms carrying more than seemed safe. The young was barely 18 in Earth years, with silver skin that shimmered under the lights and large eyes that reminded Danny of his sister back home. "Danny, I need help," said, her voice high and musical like most of her species. She dumped the on his desk with a thud. "My professor wants me to cross-reference mineral compositions from 12 different planet types, and I cannot find half the databases." Danny smiled and began sorting through her mess. "Okay, let me see. You need the Geological Survey archives, not the biology section. Common mistake." He pulled up the correct directories and transferred them to her personal device. Shoulders relaxed, all 4 arms dropping to her sides in relief. "You are a lifesaver," she said. "I do not know how you keep all this organized in your head." "Practice," Danny said. "Plus, I actually enjoy this stuff. Most people think I'm weird." "You are weird," said, but she was smiling. "But nice weird, like my little brother back on Veeler. He also loves boring things." Danny laughed. He had heard about his family many times. She was the oldest of 5 siblings, and she worried about them constantly. Being so far from home was hard on her, but her family had saved for years to send her to Meridian Prime. The education here could change their lives. "How is your family?" Danny asked, closing the files he had been working on. His mood shifted immediately. "Good, scared but good. There have been reports of criminals on the station. The syndicate they are called. My mother messages me every day to be careful." Danny had heard the rumors too. There were bad news, a crime organization that operated in the shadows of civilized space. They dealt in everything illegal: weapons, drugs, stolen technology, and sometimes people. Security had increased on Meridian Prime, but the station was huge, with thousands of students and staff. Easy to hide in a crowd that large. "Just stay in well-lit areas," Danny said. "And message me if you are ever worried. I can walk you back to your dorm." "You are too nice," said. "The other humans I have met are nice too, but you are different, quieter, you actually listen." Danny shrugged. He had never been the loud type, even back on Earth. Growing up on a frontier colony had taught him to watch and listen more than talk. His older brother used to joke that Danny could track a mouse through a thunderstorm just by paying attention. The hours passed quickly. Danny helped 3 more students find research materials, fixed a corrupted data file, and finished his own work on cellular adaptation in low-gravity environments. By the time he looked at the clock, it was late. Most of the station had moved into night cycle, lights dimmed to let people sleep. He packed his things and headed for the door, but something made him stop. A feeling, nothing more. The kind of instinct his brother had tried to teach him to trust. Danny turned back and scanned the archive, but everything looked normal. Empty desks, quiet machines, shadows in the corners. He shook his head and left, probably just tired. The corridors of Meridian Prime were beautiful at night. The station had been built to feel open and welcoming, with high ceilings and windows that showed the stars beyond. Danny walked slowly, enjoying the peace. During the day, these halls were packed with students from hundreds of species, all talking and laughing in dozens of languages. At night, it was just him and the hum of life support. He was halfway to his dorm when he saw it. On the floor, screen cracked, lying near a side corridor that led to the lower maintenance levels. Danny picked it up and his stomach dropped. He recognized the bright purple case immediately. Had shown it to him a week ago, proud of the silly decorations she had added. Danny looked around. The corridor was empty, but now he noticed other things. Scuff marks on the floor, fresh and dark. A piece of torn fabric caught on a door panel, green and rough, the kind the wore. And there, barely visible, a smear of something on the wall at hand height. He touched it carefully and brought his fingers to his nose. Chemical, the kind used in stun weapons. His heart began to beat faster. Danny pulled out his communicator and called, no answer. He tried again, nothing. He contacted station security next. The officer who answered sounded bored. "Missing person report," the officer said by the sound of his voice. "How long has the individual been out of contact?" "Maybe an hour," Danny said, "but there are signs of a struggle. I found her and—" "An hour is not long enough to file a report," the officer interrupted. "Students often forget to charge their communicators or fall asleep. Check again in the morning." "But there is evidence of—" "Morning," the officer said and ended the call. Danny stood in the empty corridor, holding broken. The logical part of his brain said the officer was probably right. Had maybe dropped her pad and gone back to her dorm a different way. She was fine, safe in bed. But his instincts, the ones bred into him from growing up on a world where predators hunted at night and danger hid in every shadow, screamed that something was wrong. He looked down at the scuff marks again, followed them with his eyes to the maintenance corridor. The door there was slightly open, which it should not be. Those areas were restricted to staff only. Danny made a decision. He sent a quick message to his family contact, then to Professor Grant, his faculty advisor, just in case. Then he approached the maintenance door and slipped through. The corridor beyond was darker, lit only by emergency strips along the floor. Danny's eyes adjusted quickly, another gift from Earth. Humans could see well in low light compared to most species. He moved forward slowly, checking every shadow, every corner. 20 meters in, he found another piece of evidence. A tracking device, small and cheap, the kind criminals used to mark targets. It was still active, blinking softly. Danny picked it up and felt something cold settle in his chest. They had taken her, had taken. His communicator buzzed. An anonymous message, text only. "We have the girl. Her family will pay 200,000 credits for her return. They have 48 hours. Tell no one or she dies." Danny read the message twice. His hands were steady, but something was changing inside him. The quiet student who loved books and helped his friends was still there, but something else was waking up. Something that came from Earth, from a world where humans had been both hunters and hunted for millions of years. He thought of scared and alone. He thought of her family, light years away and helpless. He thought of his own sister, the same age as, and what he would want someone to do for her. Security would not help, not in time. The bureaucracy would move slowly, file reports, start investigations. In 48 hours would be gone, sold to whoever paid the most or worse. Danny deleted the message from his communicator. He would not be telling anyone, not yet. First, he had work to do. He looked down the dark corridor and began to walk, his footsteps silent, his breathing controlled. The archives could wait. His studies could wait. Right now, there was only one thing that mattered. Behind him, the door to the maintenance level slid shut, sealing him in the darkness. Ahead, somewhere in the bowels of Meridian Prime, criminals who thought they were safe were about to learn a hard lesson. Danny moved through the maintenance corridors like a shadow. His eyes had fully adjusted to the dim light now, and he could see details most species would miss. Water damage on the walls, old repair marks, and most importantly, the trail. They had been careful, but not careful enough. Danny could see where they had dragged something heavy. The marks were faint, but they were there. He followed them deeper into the station's lower levels, places most students never saw. His mind was working differently now. The part of him that worried about grades and research papers had gone quiet. What remained was older, simpler: track the prey, find the trail, bring her home. After 30 minutes, the trail went cold at an intersection of 4 corridors. Danny stopped and thought. He needed information, and he knew where to get it. Shop was in the gray zone of Meridian Prime, the area where legal and illegal blurred together. The merchant sold information, among other things. Danny had helped him once, translating an ancient Earth text that needed for a collector. The merchant owed him a favor. Danny backtracked and made his way to the commercial levels. Even at nights, Shop was open. The door chimed as Danny entered. Looked up from behind his counter. It was short and wide, with gray skin and too many fingers. His eyes narrowed when he saw Danny. "The quiet human," said, his voice like gravel in a blender. "You are out late." "I need information," Danny said. "Everyone needs information. That is why I am rich," leaned back in his chair. "What kind?" "The syndicate, where they operate on this station." His expression changed. The friendly merchant vanished, replaced by something harder. No, absolutely not. I do not talk about they are bad for business, bad for health. Danny stepped closer to the counter. You owe me a favor, remember. A favor for translation work, yes, not for suicide, shook his head. They are dangerous human. They have killed for less than someone asking questions. They took a friend of mine, Danny said quietly. A student, just a kid. They want ransom money from her family. Was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed, a sound like air escaping from a tire. This friend, she matters to you. Yes. Enough to die for. Danny did not hesitate. Yes. Studied him with eyes that had seen too much. Then he pulled out and typed quickly. I am going to regret this. They have a base in Cargo Section 7. It was abandoned 3 years ago after a hull breach. Repairs were never finished. They use it to hold people before moving them off station. How many? At least a dozen, maybe more. They are armed human military-grade weapons, and they know how to use them. Danny nodded, thank you. Wait reached under his counter and pulled out a small device. Jammer, it will block their communications for about 10 minutes. After that, it burns out. Use it wisely. Danny took the device and turned to leave. Human called out, your species, you are from a yes, class 9 or 10. Class 12, Danny said. His eyes widened. Class 12 meant Earth was one of the most dangerous planets in the known galaxy. Then maybe you have a chance, maybe, but probably you will die and I will feel guilty. Do not feel guilty, Danny said. This was my choice. He left the shop and headed back to his dorm. There was not much time, but he needed to prepare. They would not expect a rescue attempt, certainly not from a single student. That was his only advantage. In his room, Danny looked at the items he owned. Most students had decorations, pictures, souvenirs from home. Danny had tools, a comprehensive first aid kit from Earth, a multi-tool that could function as 20 different things, climbing rope, a portable welder, things his brother had insisted he bring just in case. He also had something most aliens would not recognize as dangerous, a canister of compressed air, the kind used for cleaning equipment. Danny unscrewed the nozzle and examined it. With a few modifications, it could become a weapon, not lethal but effective. He worked quickly, his hands steady. The engineering classes he had taken were paying off in ways his professors never intended. Within 20 minutes, he had created 3 improvised devices, one using chemical components from his lab supplies, one smoke generator, and the compressed air canister, now capable of firing small projectiles at high speed. Danny changed his clothes, dark colors, nothing loose that could catch on things. His colony world boots, thick-soled and quiet. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. He left his dorm and made his way to Cargo Section 7. The path took him through areas of the station that got progressively emptier and darker. Security cameras were fewer here. The air smelled stale. At the entrance to Section 7, Danny paused. This was his last chance to turn back. Call security again, wait for proper help, let the system handle it. But the system moved slowly and did not have time. He thought of her smile, her worry about her family, the way she called him nice. He thought of his sister far away on Earth. Danny entered Section 7. The cargo area was massive, full of old containers and broken machinery, perfect for hiding. Danny moved carefully, using the containers for cover. His breathing was slow and controlled. His brother had taught him that, calm in the hunt, never rush. He had gone about 50 meters when he heard voices. 2 talking in their clicking language. Danny did not speak, but he understood the tone, bored guards thinking they were safe. Danny circled around them, moving from shadow to shadow. He got close enough to see them clearly. Both were armed with energy rifles. Both were bigger than him. They were a strong species, evolved for their high-gravity world. But they were not they had never had to hunt to survive, never had to fight predators twice their size, never had to evolve the kind of bone density and muscle efficiency that came from living on Earth. Danny picked up a small piece of metal and threw it to his left. The sound made both guards turn. He moved right, closing the distance in 3 quick steps. The first guard did not even see him coming. Danny hit him in the nerve cluster at the base of his neck, a spot his brother had shown him years ago. Works on most species, his brother had said. The guard dropped. The second guard turned, raising his rifle, but Danny was already moving. He grabbed the rifle barrel and pushed it up as the guard fired. The energy bolt went into the ceiling. Danny drove his knee into the guard's midsection, then swept his legs out from under him. The guard hit the ground hard, and Danny struck him once more to make sure he stayed down. Both guards were unconscious in less than 10 seconds. Danny took a moment to breathe. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. He dragged both guards behind a container and used their own restraints to tie them up. Then he took one of their rifles and checked the charge. Full. He continued deeper into the cargo section. The trail of the was easier to follow now. They had gotten lazy, confident in their security. Danny found food wrappers, discarded equipment, signs of regular movement. Then he heard it, a voice, faint but unmistakable, speaking in her musical language. She sounded scared but alive. Danny's jaw tightened. He moved toward the sound, every sense alert. Ahead, he could see light coming from an old cargo office. The door was partially open. He approached carefully and looked inside. 3 more sitting around a table playing some kind of game. Beyond them, through another door, he could see. She was locked in what looked like an old storage cage, sitting on the floor with her knees drawn up. Danny calculated the odds. 3 armed criminals, one of him. In any fair fight, he would lose. Good thing he was not planning a fair fight. He pulled out his improvised and set the timer for 5 seconds. Then he threw it through the door and turned away, covering his ears. The explosion was not loud by military standards, but in the enclosed space it was deafening. The flash of light was blinding. Danny moved immediately, entering the room while they were still stunned. The first one was easy. Danny hit him with the rifle stock hard enough to knock him out. The second one was recovering faster, reaching for his weapon. Danny fired the rifle, a quick burst that hit the in the shoulder, not lethal but enough to put him down. The third was the problem. He had somehow kept hold of his weapon and was raising it despite being blind and deaf from the... Danny dropped his rifle and rushed forward, tackling the criminal before he could fire. They hit the ground together, though was strong, pushing Danny back with all 4 arms. Danny grabbed one arm and twisted, using his own strength against him. He heard something crack, the howled in pain. Danny got his arm around the criminal's neck and squeezed. Not to kill, just to stop. The struggled for a few seconds, then went limp. Danny stood up, breathing hard. His ribs hurt where the hat hit him. He would have bruises tomorrow, but nothing was broken. Danny, the voice was small and terrified, was staring at him through the bars of her cage, all 4 arms gripping the metal. "It is okay," Danny said, his voice rough. "I am getting you out of here." He found the key on one of the unconscious guards and opened the cage, rushed out and grabbed him in a 4-armed hug, shaking. "How did you find me? How did you do all this?" Later, Danny said, he could hear sounds in the distance, more coming to investigate the noise. "We need to move now." He handed the rifle he had dropped and took the one from the guard he had shot. "Do you know how to use this?" "Point and shoot," asked, her voice still shaking. "Close enough, stay behind me." They moved toward the exit, but Danny could see figures appearing in the corridors ahead. At least 6 more, all armed, all moving to cut them off. Danny felt something shift inside him. The gentle student was completely gone now. What remained was pure survival instinct, honed over millions of years of evolution on a world that tried to kill everything that lived on it. The smoke filled the corridor in seconds, thick and gray and impossible to see through. Danny heard the shouting to each other, confused. Their communications were jammed. They could not coordinate. Perfect. Danny moved through the smoke like he had lived in it his whole life. His eyes watered, but he could still see shapes, movement. They were firing blindly, energy bolts cutting through the smoke and hitting walls, wasting ammunition, getting scared. He came up behind the first one and struck hard at the back of the knee. The went down with a cry. Danny took his weapon and kept moving, silent as death. Another appeared in front of him, coughing from the smoke. Danny hit him across the face with the rifle stock. The criminal stumbled back and Danny swept his legs. 2 down. "Fall back," someone shouted in. The voice was deeper, more controlled. A leader. "Get out of the smoke, regroup." The criminals retreated, but Danny did not follow. He had accomplished his goal, was running toward safety, and they were disorganized. Now he just had to survive long enough for security to arrive. He moved to a side corridor away from the smoke and found cover behind an old cargo container. His ribs hurt worse now, and his right hand was bleeding from where he had hit the second guard. Nothing serious. He had been hurt worse playing football back home. They were regrouping about 30 meters away. Danny counted 8 of them, including the leader, a tall with scars across his face and expensive armor. That had to be Vex, the crime boss had mentioned. Vex was shouting orders, organizing his people into a proper search pattern. They were not panicked anymore. They were angry. "Find the human," Vex commanded. "He cannot have gone far, and someone tell me why our communications are down." One of them pulled out a scanner. "Jammer, boss, short range. It will burn out in a few minutes." "Then we wait," Vex said. "Set up a perimeter. When the jammer dies, we call for reinforcements. Then we flood this section and find him." Danny realized he had a problem. He had maybe 5 minutes before they could call for help. Once that happened, he would be facing dozens of armed criminals instead of 8. And he was just one person, injured and running on adrenaline. He needed to change the situation. Danny looked around the cargo section. It was old, half-broken, full of machinery that had not worked in years, but some of it could still be useful. He saw a power junction box on the wall about 10 meters away. If he could reach it, he could cut power to this entire section. Level the playing field. He waited until they were looking away, then sprinted for the junction box. He almost made it. One of the criminals turned at the last second and saw him. The fired, and the energy bolt caught Danny in the left shoulder. Pain exploded through him. Danny hit the ground and rolled, getting behind cover. His shoulder was burning, the smell of cooked flesh making him want to throw up. But the bolt had not gone deep. His bone density had stopped it from penetrating all the way through. "There," the who had shot him yelled. "Section 4 behind the blue container." Danny forced himself to move. He reached the junction box and ripped it open. His hands were shaking now, but he found the main power relay and pulled it out. The lights died instantly, plunging the cargo section into complete darkness. They started shouting again, panicked. Their species had poor night vision, worse than humans. In the dark, they were almost blind. But Danny could see, not perfectly, but enough. The emergency lights were still on, dim red strips along the floor. His eyes, evolved for a world with long nights and dangerous predators, adjusted quickly. Now the hunt truly began. Danny moved through the darkness, silent despite his injuries. He could hear the stumbling around, calling to each other. They had bunched up for safety, all except one who had wandered too far from the group. Danny came up behind him without a sound. He grabbed the from behind and pulled him into the shadows. A quick strike to the head and the criminal went down. Danny took his ammunition and kept moving. One of the other called, "Where are you?" No answer. The darkness swallowed everything. "Stay together," Vex ordered. His voice was tight now, afraid. "Do not separate. The human is picking us off." Danny smiled in the dark. They were starting to understand. He climbed onto a stack of containers, finding a position above them. From here, he could see them clearly. 7 left, all grouped together, weapons pointed in every direction. He pulled out his improvised air gun and loaded it with a piece of sharp metal. Not accurate, but in the enclosed space it did not need to be. He aimed carefully and fired. The projectile hit one of them in the leg. The criminal screamed and went down. The others fired wildly at where they thought the shot had come from, but Danny was already moving to a new position. 6 left. This was not a fair fight. Danny knew that. He was using every advantage he had: surprise, darkness, knowledge of the terrain. The predator instincts that millions of years of evolution had burned into human DNA. They were stronger, better armed, more experienced in combat, but they were also scared, and fear made people stupid. "The jammer is down," one of them said, checking his communicator. "I can send for help." "Do it," Vex ordered. "Tell them we need everyone now." They sent the message. Danny heard him say they needed backup to deal with a dangerous human in cargo section 7. Help would arrive in maybe 10 minutes. Danny had 10 minutes to finish this. He dropped from the containers and moved closer, using broken machinery for cover. His shoulder was throbbing, and he was starting to feel dizzy from blood loss. But he could not stop. Not yet. One of them separated from the group, moving toward the exit. Smart. Get to safety, let the others handle it. But Danny was already there, waiting in the shadows. They never saw him coming. Danny hit him low and hard, driving him into the ground. They struggled for a moment, but Danny got his arm around the criminal's neck and applied pressure. They went limp. 5 left. "He is between us and the exit," Vex said. His voice was different now, respectful, wary. The human is hunting us. It is just one person, another said, but he sounded uncertain. One human, Vex corrected. From a class 12, I looked them up after we took the girl. Do you know what that means? Boss, it is just ratings, propaganda. No, Vex said quietly. It is truth. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They can track prey for days without stopping. They can fight through injuries that would kill most species. And when they are protecting someone they care about, they do not stop. Ever. Danny heard this from his hiding spot and felt a strange pride. At least someone understood. What do we do? One of the asked. We survive, Vex said. Tight formation, watch every direction. When backup arrives, we flood this section with enough firepower to bring down a ship. Then the human dies. They moved into a defensive circle, weapons pointing outward. Smart. Harder to pick them off one by one. Danny would have to be more direct. He checked his weapons. One rifle half charged. His improvised air gun. His multi-tool, not much, but it would have to be enough. Danny threw a piece of metal to his left. They all turned and fired. He used the distraction to sprint right, getting close before they could react. He fired his rifle on full auto, not aiming to kill but to suppress. The scattered, their formation breaking. One of them tried to return fire, but Danny was already on him. They went down together, rolling across the floor. There was Strong getting his hands around Danny's throat. Danny could not breathe. His vision started to darken. He grabbed his multi-tool and drove it into this arm. The criminal screamed and let go. Danny hit him twice more and pushed him away. 4 left. But Danny was hurt now, really hurt. The wound in his shoulder was bleeding worse. His throat was bruised. He could feel his strength fading. He stumbled behind cover and tried to catch his breath. His hands were shaking. How much longer could he keep this up? Then he heard something that changed everything. A voice, distant but getting closer. Security. Must have reached them and they were coming. They heard it too. Vex cursed it in his own language. Move out, we leave now, the operation is burned. What about the human? Forget him, we need to disappear before security locks down the section. They started moving toward a different exit, one Danny had not covered. He tried to stand to cut them off, but his legs gave out. He fell back against the container, breathing hard. No, he could not let them escape. If they got away, they would just do this again, take another student, hurt another innocent person. Danny forced himself up. Every part of his body screamed in protest. He was dizzy, weak, running on nothing but willpower. But he started moving anyway, following the... He caught up to them at a junction of 3 corridors. They were moving fast, not watching their backs anymore, just trying to escape. Danny raised his rifle with shaking hands and fired. The shot went wide, hitting the wall, but it made them turn. Vex saw him and stopped. The crime boss looked at Danny, really looked at him, saw the blood, the injuries, the way he could barely stand, and he smiled. You should have stayed down, human, Vex said. He raised his own weapon, a heavy plasma pistol. You fought well, but this is over. Danny knew he could not dodge, could not fight anymore. His body was done. But he was still standing, still between thee and freedom. You are right, Danny said, his voice rough. It is over. Danny woke up to bright lights and the smell of antiseptic. His whole body hurt, a deep ache that went all the way to his bones. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Stay still, a voice said. A medical technician, some species Danny did not recognize, pushed him gently back down. You have been unconscious for 18 hours. Your body needs to heal. Danny managed to say. His throat felt like sandpaper. The student is fine. She has been here the entire time, waiting for you to wake up. Security finally convinced her to go eat something. The technician checked a monitor above Danny's bed. You are very lucky, human. The plasma burn to your shoulder could have been much worse, and the bruising to your throat is severe but not permanent. Danny closed his eyes, was safe. That was all that mattered. The door opened and rushed in, all 4 arms full of what looked like snacks from the cafeteria. When she saw Danny was awake, she dropped everything and grabbed his hand. You stupid, brave, wonderful idiot, she said, tears running down her silver face. Why did you come alone? You could have died. Could not leave you there, Danny said. I know, that is why you are an idiot, but she was smiling through the tears. Security told me what you did, how you fought them all, how you saved me. Before Danny could respond, the door opened again. This time it was station security. Two officers, and behind them, a human woman in the uniform of the Galactic Council Defense Force. She was older, maybe 40, with short dark hair and the kind of eyes that saw everything. "Danny Cooper," she said, pulling up a chair next to his bed. "I am Commander Lyra Hayes, Galactic Council Security. We need to talk." Danny nodded. He had expected this. Commander Hayes pulled out and started reading. "In the past 24 hours, you illegally entered a restricted section of Meridian Prime. You assaulted 13 members of the Syndicate. You used improvised weapons. You caused significant property damage. You ignored direct orders from station security." She looked up from the pad. "Do you have anything to say?" "They took my friend," Danny said simply. Hayes studied him for a long moment. Then she surprised him by smiling. "I read the reports from the we arrested. Do you know what they said about you?" Danny shook his head. "They said you moved like a ghost, that you hunted them through the dark like some kind of monster, that you should have gone down 3 times but kept getting back up." Hayes leaned forward. "Vex himself said you were the most dangerous human he had ever encountered, and he has dealt with our military before." "I am not military," Danny said, "just a student." "That is what worries people," Hayes said. "If a student can do what you did, what can our trained soldiers do? You have created quite a stir in the galactic community, Danny. Everyone is their assumptions about humans." The door opened again. This time it was Professor Grant, Danny's advisor. The older man looked tired but relieved to see Danny awake. "Commander, if I may," Professor Grant said. Hayes nodded and stood. "We will continue this conversation later. For now, rest. You are not under arrest, but you are not free to leave the medical wing either." After she left, Professor Grant sat down heavily. "Danny, what were you thinking?" "I was thinking did not have time for proper procedure," Danny said. "I know, and you were right. Security found evidence that they were planning to move her off station within hours. If you had waited, she would be gone." Professor Grant rubbed his face. "But you put yourself in incredible danger. You took on a criminal organization alone." "I did what I had to do." "Yes, you did, and now we have to deal with the consequences." Professor Grant pulled out his own. "The university board is meeting tomorrow to decide your fate. Some want you expelled for breaking regulations. Others want you commended for saving a student's life. It is going to be a fight." "I understand," Danny said. "Do you?" Professor Grant looked at him seriously. "Danny, you scared people, not the criminals, us, the faculty, other students. They saw what a human is capable of when pushed. Some of them are terrified." Danny felt something cold in his stomach. "I did not mean to scare anyone." "I know, but intentions do not change results," Professor Grant sighed. "There is going to be a hearing in 3 days. You will need to testify. So will the security forces, even some of the galaxy is watching, Danny. How we handle this will set precedents." Over the next 2 days, Danny recovered in the medical wing. Visited every day, bringing food and news. Other students came too, some to thank him, others just to see the human who had fought the Syndicate alone. But some stayed away. Danny could see fear in their eyes when they looked at him. He had shown them something they were not ready to see, the predator beneath the friendly surface. On the 3rd day, Danny was released from medical care. His shoulder was healing well, faster than the doctors expected. Human regeneration was apparently quite impressive to species who had evolved on gentler worlds. The hearing was held in the university's main assembly hall. Danny sat at a table in the center, with Professor Grant beside him as his advocate. Across from them sat the university board, 12 representatives from different species and departments. Behind Danny, the gallery was full of students, faculty, and media from across the galaxy. The board chair, a named counselor, opened the proceedings. "We are here to determine the appropriate response to the events of 3 days ago. Danny Cooper, human student, took unauthorized action that resulted in the rescue of a fellow student and the arrest of a major criminal organization. However, his methods violated numerous university regulations and galactic laws." For the next hour, Danny listened as people. Security officers described finding the cargo section, the unconscious criminals, the evidence of the fight. Medical staff talked about Danny's injuries. Spoke, tears in her eyes, about how Danny had saved her life. Then Vex was brought in restraints and under guard. The crime boss looked different in custody, smaller, less threatening. But when he saw Danny, something flickered in his eyes, respect maybe, or fear. "Tell the board what you told investigators," Commander Hayes said. Vex looked at Danny for a long moment. We researched the girl before taking her. We knew her family had money. We knew she was isolated, far from home, easy target. He paused. We did not research her friends, did not think it mattered. Why would it matter? Counselor asked. Because one of her friends was human, Vex said. We know about humans now. Their military is formidable, but we thought their civilians were soft, academic, no threat. And you were wrong, Commander Hayes said. Yes, Vex looked at Danny again. That human tracked us through the dark, took down my best soldiers, fought through injuries that should have killed him, all for one friend. We had weapons, training, numbers. He had determination. And on that night, determination won. The gallery was silent. Everyone was looking at Danny now. Why did you keep fighting? Counselor asked Vex. When you realized what you were facing. Pride, arrogance. We could not believe one unarmed student could be a threat. Vex shook his head. By the time we understood what he was, it was too late. He had already won. They took Vex away. The board deliberated for 30 minutes, then returned. Counselor stood. Danny Cooper, this board recognizes that your actions, while technically illegal, were morally justified. You saved a life at great personal risk. However, we cannot ignore that you violated numerous regulations. Danny's heart sank. They were going to expel him. Therefore, continued, you will be placed on academic probation for the remainder of this term. You will work with university counselors to help integrate your experiences, and you will assist in developing new emergency protocols for student safety. Danny looked up surprised. I am not expelled. No, said, but understand, Danny Cooper, the galaxy is watching humanity. Your actions have changed how many species view your people. You have a responsibility now, whether you wanted it or not. Professor Grant leaned over and whispered, that means you are staying. Congratulations. After the hearing, Danny was surrounded by students. Some wanted to shake his hand. Others wanted pictures. The media tried to interview him, but security kept them back. Pushed through the crowd and hugged him again. You did it. You get to stay. I get to stay, Danny agreed, but he felt strange. He was the same person he had been a week ago, but everyone looked at him differently now. That night, Danny sat in his dorm room looking out at the stars. His communicator buzzed. 2 months passed. Life at Meridian Prime returned to something close to normal, but the changes were permanent. Danny walked through the university corridors and noticed how other students reacted to him. Some smiled and waved, friendly as always. Others gave him space, their eyes showing a mix of respect and caution. A few avoided him entirely, still scared of what he had done. He understood. Before, he had been the quiet human who worked in the archives. Now he was the human who had fought 13 armed criminals and won. People did not know how to treat him anymore, but stayed by his side. If anything, their friendship had grown stronger. She introduced him to her friends, all who treated him like family. They called him the Protector in their musical language, and it always made him smile. You are coming to lunch, yes? Asked, catching up to him between classes. My study group wants to meet you. They have questions about Earth. What kind of questions? Danny asked, suspicious. Normal questions. What is your gravity like? How many predators are there? Is it true humans can run for days without stopping? Grinned. Also, Myra wants to know if you are available for dating, but I told her you are too busy. Danny laughed. Thanks for that. They walked to the cafeteria together. Danny had been working with Professor Grant on a new research project, studying how different species evolved their survival instincts. It was fascinating work, and it helped him understand himself better, too. The fear response, the adrenaline rush, the way his body could push through pain when someone he cared about was in danger. These were not flaws, they were features built into humanity over millions of years. At lunch, study group asked their questions. Danny answered honestly, trying to help them understand Earth without making it sound too dangerous. Yes, there were predators. Yes, the gravity was high. Yes, humans could run for incredible distances, but Earth was also beautiful with diverse ecosystems and countless wonders. Is it true you can eat almost anything? One of the asked. I heard humans have extremely resistant digestive systems. Compared to most species, yes, Danny said. We evolved as opportunistic eaters. If it has calories, we can probably digest it. They looked impressed and slightly horrified. After lunch, Danny went to his counseling session. The university had assigned him a therapist, a kind named doctor who specialized in trauma and integration. At first, Danny had resisted. He was fine. He did not need therapy. But Professor Grant had insisted, and Danny had to admit it was helping. "How are you feeling this week?" Doctor asked, settling into her chair. Her three eyes blinked independently, a habit Danny had learned meant she was focusing completely. "Better," Danny said. "The nightmares are less frequent." "What do you dream about?" "The fight. Sometimes I dream I was not fast enough, that they hurt before I could reach her." Danny looked at his hands. "Sometimes I dream I went too far, that I killed someone." "But you did not," Doctor reminded him gently. "You showed remarkable restraint. Every criminal you faced survived." "I know, but in the moment I was not thinking about restraint. I was thinking about stopping them, by any means necessary." Doctor made a note on her pad. "You are integrating two parts of yourself, the scholar and the protector. This is not easy, especially when galactic society expects you to be only one thing." "What thing is that?" "Peaceful, compliant, non-threatening." Doctor leaned forward. "But you are human, Danny. Your species is complex. You can be gentle and fierce, scholarly and warrior-like. Both are true, both are you." Danny thought about that for a long time. That evening he taught his self-defense class. It had started small, just a few students who wanted to learn basic safety. Now he had over 30 students from a dozen species, all eager to learn. He taught them simple things: how to be aware of their surroundings, how to trust their instincts, how to escape from holds, how to strike effectively if they had no choice. But more than that, he taught them confidence, that they did not have to be victims, that size and strength mattered less than determination and preparation. "Remember," Danny told the class as they practiced breaking holds, "the goal is always to escape and get help. Fighting is the last option, not the first, but if you must fight, fight smart." After class, a young student approached him, a barely adult with nervous eyes. "Danny, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When you fought, though, were you scared?" Danny considered lying, then decided against it. "Terrified the whole time." The student looked surprised. "But you kept fighting anyway." "That is what courage is," Danny said. "Not the absence of fear, doing what needs to be done despite the fear." The student nodded, looking thoughtful, and left. Danny packed up his training equipment and headed back to his dorm. On the way, he passed a group of students. He recognized them from his xenobiology classes. They looked nervous as he approached. Danny stopped. "Hey, are you all headed to the library? I am going that way too." They exchanged glances. Finally, one of them spoke. "You do not mind walking with us after what our kind did?" "You did not do anything," Danny said. "The syndicate did. You are not responsible for their crimes any more than I am responsible for every human criminal in the galaxy." They walked together to the library. Danny helped them find the research materials they needed, just like he always did. By the time they left, they were talking normally, the tension gone. A week later, Danny received an unexpected message. Commander Hayes wanted to meet with him outside the university district. He found her at a corner table, 2 cups of coffee already ordered. She pushed one toward him as he sat down. "How are you adjusting?" Hayes asked. "Getting there," Danny said. "Still weird being known across the station, but I am managing." Hayes smiled. "You are famous beyond this station, Danny. Your story has spread across the galaxy. Some see you as a hero, others see you as proof that humans are dangerous. Most are just confused." "What do you see me as?" "A kid who did the right thing," Hayes said, "but also someone with potential." She pulled out "I have an offer for you. After you graduate, there is a position waiting in galactic security. We need people who can think creatively, who do not give up, who will do whatever it takes to protect innocence." Danny looked at them but did not take it. "I appreciate the offer, Commander, but I am not a soldier. I want to be a researcher, help people understand each other better." "That is a noble goal," Hayes said. "But think about it. You do not have to decide now." Danny nodded. He would think about it, but he already knew his answer. More time passed. Danny finished his probation period with excellent marks. His research with Professor Grant was published in a major xenobiology journal. He helped establish new safety protocols for the university that other institutions across the galaxy adopted. Graduated and prepared to return home to Veeler. The night before she left, Danny helped her pack. I am going to miss this place, said, looking around her dorm room. But I am ready to go home, see my family. They are lucky to have you back, Danny said. They want to meet you, said. My parents, my siblings, they want to thank the human who saved me. I was just doing what anyone would do. No, said firmly, most people would not, that is why it matters. She pulled something from her bag and handed it to Danny, a crystal pendant, traditional craftsmanship. This is our family's protection charm, I want you to have it. I cannot take this. You can and you will, she said. You protected me when I needed it most. Now this will remind you that you have family on Velar, always. Danny accepted the pendant, feeling emotional. Thank you. They hugged, all four of her arms wrapping around him. The next day, Danny stood in the observation deck and watched ship depart. She waved from a window, and he waved back until the ship was just another point of light among millions. Life continued. Danny took advanced classes, made new friends, kept teaching his self-defense course, worked in the archives. But he was different now, more confident, more integrated. He understood himself better. The gentle scholar and the fierce protector were not opposites. They were two sides of the same person. One day, Danny was shelving books in the archives when two new students approached. They looked lost and overwhelmed, fresh from some distant world. Excuse me, one of them said nervously. Can you help us find information on atmospheric chemistry? Danny smiled. Of course, follow me. As he led them through the stacks, explaining the catalog system, he felt at peace. This was who he was, someone who helped, someone who protected, someone who chose kindness first but could fight when necessary. Behind him, the door chimed as more students entered the archives. Danny recognized the sound of different species, different languages, different worlds all coming together in one place. This was the galaxy at its best. Different people learning to understand each other, building something better together. And if threats emerged, if innocence needed protection, there were humans like Danny ready to stand up. Not because they were violent, not because they wanted to fight, but because they cared, because they had evolved on a world that taught them never to give up, because when they made a friend, they would walk through fire to keep that friend safe. That night, Danny received a message from an unknown source. He opened it carefully. It was a warning, distributed across criminal networks throughout the galaxy. A new entry in their threat assessment database. Human civilians, threat level upgraded to high. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Do not threaten their friends or family. Do not assume their peaceful nature means they are harmless. If confrontation is unavoidable, use overwhelming force and expect casualties. Humans from do not surrender. They do not break. They will find you. They will stop you. And they will not show mercy if you harm those they protect. Below the warning was a grainy image. Danny standing in the cargo section, battered and bleeding but still standing, still fighting. Danny closed the message and deleted it. He did not need to see it. Across the galaxy, criminals were learning a lesson, but that was not his problem anymore. He had homework to finish, research to complete, friends to meet for dinner. The galaxy could call him dangerous if it wanted, could fear him or respect him or both. It did not matter. Danny Cooper was just a student who loved xenobiology, worked in the archives, and tried to help people understand each other. And if someone threatened his friends, he would become something else entirely. But until then, he had books to shelve. The quiet scholar returned to his work, while somewhere in the darkness of space, the predator slept. Ready, waiting, watching over those who could not protect themselves. Because that was what it meant to be human. From his brother on Earth. Heard what you did, little brother. Mom is worried, but I am proud. You protected someone who needed it. That is what we do. That is what makes us human. Danny smiled and wrote back. Then he opened his textbooks. He had missed 3 days of classes, time to catch up. Outside his window, ships came and went from Meridian Prime. The galaxy kept turning, but something had changed. Word was spreading across the stars. Humans were not just strong or fast or resilient. They were loyal, they were protective, and when someone they cared about was in danger, they became something else entirely. Something the galaxy was still trying to understand. Behind Vex, the corridor lit up with lights. Security forces, at least 20 of them, all armed and armored. They were surrounded. Drop your weapons, a voice commanded over a speaker. You are under arrest. Vex looked at Danny, then at the security forces, then back at Danny. You knew they were coming. I just had to slow you down, Danny said. Then his legs finally gave out and he collapsed. The last thing he saw before his vision faded was running toward him. Security guards trying to hold her back, her voice calling his name. Then darkness took him, and Danny finally let himself rest. He looked at, when I say run, you run, do not stop, do not look back, get to the main corridors and scream for security. What about you? Danny smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. I am going to buy you time. He activated Jammer and threw his smoke generator into the corridor ahead. Then he stepped forward into the growing cloud, toward the armed criminals who thought they were hunters. They were about to learn what it meant to face a predator from Earth. They had made a mistake. They had targeted someone a human cared about, and humans from did not forget. They did not forgive, and they never ever stopped until their people were safe.